Yeah, great to be back here with you, Bapu.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Summer.
absolutely.
Same. Mm.
Yeah, so knowing you as a certain type of yogi, and I know you usually say you're a yogi even before you're a musician, or before anything else,
Well, we were born before we played.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering if that kind of thing has come easy for you, or if it's been a pretty natural process for you to, stay in on the yogic path and not let the musical karma or being with certain peeps or individuals deter you from being that yoga practitioner first.
What's that, a question?
Yeah, how did you do it?
Well, I don't feel I did anything. I did it by not doing it, say, in a sense. Was it given to me to follow the inner path? Yes. Right. The musical experience is also part of the inner path, say. And then that depends upon what you hear. Say, what level of reality or perception you hear that you need to feed back to the audience or to the world in musical terms. So the yogic has to do with disaster and catastrophe in my case, right? 3 years old, 5 years old, nearly bleeding to death and experiencing like a state of unconsciousness which stayed with me for all my life. More or less it's there. And so we're talking about the influence of the unconscious, and let's say the warmth of the unconscious, which is a state of yoga all the time in everyone. It's there. The inner peace is there in everyone. All living beings represent the inner peace in some form or other, despite their nature as four-legged, 30 or 50-legged creatures. See? So we're living beings, and so the living side is the essence of the yoga. It's the breathing side, the life side of it. See? And so as a musician, I think the musicians strive towards becoming more yogic in a sense. And by that I mean more selfless as musicians, so that what's real in them and deep in them comes through, which is the important side of what I represent, and what I have on my path as a musician. From my early days as a doo-wop player, was always about the inner peace from the music. See, the music is part of the inner peace. See? And so we have a duality here where the music can precede the inner peace, or the music can follow the inner peace. See? Because the peace is always with us, but the music may not always be with us. See? Not everyone. So there's a question, how long this will last. Well, right now it's not too much longer as far as my lifespan goes, but there'll be a consistency, because this is a way of life now, and the beautiful side of life. It's the peaceful side of life. See, and that's what I've striven for, and that's what my music is all about, the inside. Yeah, we played some out music here and there with the jazz musicians, free jazz, and, avant-garde stuff, and, all of that. Crazy music, crazy jazz, crazy wisdom jazz. Yeah, we did a lot of that. But that was also part of the peace, because it gave peace to the people and to the musicians to be able to express themselves freely. So it's part of the same, I say, inner yoga. In my case, its case, the yogic path was the ground for me. Even though I was still in the world and living as the world, human dharma and karma, worldly interest and so on and so forth. But I always fall back to the origin. I was coming back to this. So it's easy for me to maintain this for many years and not feel like I was doing anything. So then the yoga becomes you, you become the yoga, and then you're free. You can still play music or not play music, doesn't matter. And so many people are in the position of phasing in and out of the yoga. And that's because of the intensity of their material karma. It's not that it's bad, but it demands of you. See, it demands of you. So it has to speak and express itself through you until you yogatize it into non-existence. See, and there's no more world as a distraction or confusion or any form of divisional, let's say, experience. You are what it is. You are the yogi. I mean, the center then of your own peace, which is true for everyone, but not everyone lives it. And so yoga is a word that gives it a more formal, let's say, kind of meaning, in a sense, because it means a practice of peacefulness. And I don't mean to death, so to speak, but no, being less neurotic, being much more present with people, and feeling more your ordinary and original peace, which we all have. We are first and foremost spirit soul beings. And this is a way of recovering that by language. You say, be a yogi. That means, chill out, settle yourself down, relax. See, get into the groove of your own original peacefulness and your need for that, and boom, voila, there you are. You're the yogi. Right. And you're loving it because you're in peaceful resonance with existence, if that's possible. So yoga is not hard, it's a transition. It's like calisthenics, it's like a sport too. It's what you do to relax yourself. Effort into relaxation. And then, because it's you can realize non-physical yogic consciousness, which is also what we are. We're non-physical and physical. Then you can experience the inner, right? The unconscious, and then the superconscious. Out-of-body consciousness, which is consistent with the body. Often when I have played, there's the experience of out-of-bodiness, out of music, out body, out mind. See, it's consistent. See? So when I played music, I was never out of my yoga, because my yoga is music. Music for me is the yoga. See, and it's what helps other people get beyond themselves and out of themselves and into a truth nature. See? The truth of themselves as peaceful beings, as calm and quiet beings, okay beings. Neurosis free. Good. Yes.
Yeah, earlier we were discussing being beyond or seeing beyond one's habits and tendencies and one's own mind. And I know at one point you were using the phrase, don't believe it. Mm-hmm. So you were saying, go deeper than yourself. I was wondering if you could speak on that a little bit.
Well, don't believe it if you feel it's all there is. If you feel it is your truth, it's relatively so. See, like waking consciousness and then going to sleep. Sometimes you should not believe your dreams or fantasies, and sometimes you shouldn't believe yourself and what you're experiencing. Better not to believe it, right? To add power to what you're experiencing, especially if it's painful. Don't believe it's all you are. Don't believe it's all there is. This whole existence, we're in it. We're part of it. We can't believe it. Right? It's passing. It's an appearance. And that's what we are taught as students of the yogas, of jnana, right? Of wisdom. So as to undo this programming that we believe that we have to suffer. So this, that, and whatever equals suffering. Sometimes you have no choice but to suffer, and that's good suffering. But don't believe it's forever. Then there's something false about that. It's like saying you have no other consciousness but that. There's no other level but your self-assumed level of experience in the moment, which you determine and see as suffering. Bad, ugly. See? Hatred. Don't believe it. See? It's not you. It's what you're capable of, but it's not all there is. So where this is coming from, there is no hatred, except you hate hatred. You gotta hate hatred. You gotta hate your own hatred. That I like. That's a good one. Hate hatred already. Yeah. Do that and be happy, right? This is what we are here to experience, allowing the inner understanding, the deep inner understanding is warranted in this condition of life on the earth at this time, because too many are being carried away by the love of hating. See, not the hate of hating, but the trap of hating, the hell of hating. It's not true. Yes, it's temporary. Don't keep it going. It's not healthy. It's deadly. So we have to flip that to love, love. Know that love exists, it's there. And if you don't have a sense of it, then explore that. Pursue it. Talk to certain people who know what that is and who you determine know what that is for sure, for you as a human. To get closer to that, like parents, like family. They have a bond of unconscious love. Sometimes it's very conscious, but often it's just unconscious. Ah, it's just my cousin, you know. It's just my uncle. It's just my mother. Okay, Mom. Okay, Pops. Leave me alone, Pops. You know, that kind of mind, right? All of that is part of the theater of human experience, perception, and then suffering or liberation. 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 So along my path of walking and playing with the great jazz musicians of our times, soul musicians of our times. I have met people who I can speak to in certain times. I say, well, who are troubled. I say, well, you know, there's a master within. Do you know that? Can you envision that? Wherever and whatever the within is, the master's there. If the master's not there in your case, then what you have there is suffering. The master I speak of is not suffering. It's happiness. Blissfulness. Smile of the heart. And I would often recommend they be grateful for the opportunity to play. Not cry the blues and sing the blues all the time, you know, beyond the point. We didn't become players. We weren't born players to suffer. No, we were born players to be liberated from suffering. Hello. Join the band of happy jazz. Spiritual jazz. Deep jazz. Let the inner come through. Beyond yourself and beyond what you know and beyond what you believe about yourself. Don't believe that.
Yeah, so we're talking about opening to this level of mastery. You might, and you've used the word genius. You know, you call it genius, opening to one's inner master. And the way to get there takes a certain amount of clearing one's path or clearing the way, however you want to call it. Is that the same for everybody?
Well, the thing is the same thing, but how you get to it is relative to what the obstructions might be in your case. Because you hold yourself back by being preoccupied with darkness and pleasure and, you know, money and materialism, egotism. Too much self-focus and not heart-focus, it's self-focus, self-indulgence, so on and so forth. You know. And so we need to undo what's been done by birth to a certain degree that stands in the way of your enlightenment. And that's neuroses, darkness, ignorance, self-division, and so on and so forth. Egotism, whining and carrying on, and, you know, not knowing, not wanting to know. Not wanting to be beyond the whining and the grasping and the clinging to karma and people and life, and not being able to realize that clinging is the problem. It's an obstruction. Whereas ultimately you need to open beyond that and receive the universe or life, spirit, love, light, wisdom. Truth, soul in the higher sense, reality, spirit, soul, nature, spirit, soul, essence, which is heart, nature.
Yeah, so knowing you, Bapu, for as many years as I've known you, one of the things that I've seen is your consistency. And I was wondering how you've been able to maintain that consistency you know, throughout all the years, even before I knew you, I know that, you know, you were out there and playing different clubs, playing with all, you know, all sorts of different musicians, and yeah, those aren't always easy conditions to navigate, you know, playing different clubs, you get different personalities, people at odds with one another, people at odds with you, you know, all the darkness and things that can come along with being on that, you know, trajectory and in that circuit of musicians. And I was wondering how you've been able to maintain your discipline and stay on this yogic path.
Well, you have to love practice. You have to see practice, spiritual practice, as a core reality, most important thing. And in other words, it's keeping the heart pure, being peaceful, being human. So, you know, being human means getting riled up over things that rile you up, so to speak, you know. Handling bad news as bad news, but not buying it, not making it the reality. In a way, it's like denying it the power it wants to take from you. I've been in clubs where, you know, guys went on each other, you know, jazz clubs. One musician have an attitude about the other musician because one is messing with the other's wife or something like that. All of these experiences show up in and out of the music because we're talking about human nature. See? I remember, and I'm not sure I've said this on video, but I remember like a night when I was working with Pharaoh Sanders, my brother Pharaoh, my beloved Pharaoh. And I know I've spoken about this, and he came in the club. We were waiting for him. He was a little late, you know. And he came in so sad. I'd never seen him like that, down, you know, unhappy, like done in. And, you know, I was with the band, and we were waiting to see what he was going to say. And he comes in and he says, why did they do that? Why did they have to do that? Why did they have to do that? And I said, Pharaoh, do what? And he said, take my Coltrane horns. They broke into my place and stole my horns. Devastated. Broke my heart, man. I understood. So that night I didn't record the music. Sometimes he asked me to record it, you know. I didn't record it. But was it heavy? Imagine. Pharaoh was heavy without anything. So he had access to this deep, soulful sense of the tragic, see, suffering. Not to be it, but to express it. See, to go beyond it. See. And so, yeah, musicians and great musicians are humans. And I've experienced it, you know. Profound days, and then there's these tragic days when stuff was happening and affecting the music, you know, and changed the whole agenda for whatever the program was supposed to be that night. You know, something happened, and man, whatever we were thinking is not part of it. See? And then it's everyone coming into the feeling of what it is, and then playing with the feeling and the heaviness, the blues of it. See? To purge ourselves of it, to get beyond it, get beyond the sting and the pain of it, the torture of it, the hurt of it, see? The darkness of it. See? This is part of it. So we all have to pick ourselves up and not believe it. Not believe that we're here to suffer because we have conditions. I have a bad condition, a bad wrist, a bad hand, and I suffered that most of my life till 2017, when all of a sudden the nerve damage that I had from being pushed through a window and almost dying and bleeding to death and cutting my artery open, blah, 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 that disappeared. I didn't do it. It disappeared. And so my perspective at that time was, you mean I paid my debt, Lord? You mean I'm okay now? I'm on your good side now? I said, whoa, this has been a long run, man. Others have a longer run of suffering, and now I was liberated. I mean, my playing was what it was supposed to be. Painless, joyous, see? So we are what it is. And it's up to us not to believe the undoing of our own being. That's not what we're given to do. We're given to rise up above it, provided you recognize what it is as your obstruction. Your way away from your treasured inner beauty, see, inner wisdom, and inner purpose, see, as human. So with the, I guess you might say, the experience of having played with Pharaoh for so many years, what have I learned most of all? It's the importance of a musician being true to himself and true to his people, so that when he comes out on the bandstand, what the audience and the public receives is what is true. What is truth, see? And I would further add to that. When people say, well, what do you think Tisziji is the best kind of music? I'd say that's which is true. Not just this and that and these genres. No, what is true, regardless, despite the genre. What is most appreciated and needed is what is true. True music. Artist, musician, be true to thyself, and thus true to the world. Shoot.
Yeah, Bapu, I was wondering if you had anything to say that, or to musicians who are maybe still in school or working on the academic level to further their musicianship. And yeah, I was wondering if you had any comments about that.
Well, if you have the privilege of going to school, do it. Do it. I didn't have any formal education. I started as a prodigy. My father was a drummer, and a little kid became a drummer. I can't take any credit for it. It's just something that happens in families. But I do know, as a person who was in the Army band, it's to your advantage to know your academic, right, let's say, responsibility for music, big time. And if you have that opportunity, you're wiser to go through it if you can make it. So, because what I didn't do in terms of my early life education, I made up for in the Army band. You know, that's the ultimate for musicians, actually. To be in the U.S. Army band, a big deal, or in a naval band, or an Air Force band. Because Coltrane was in a naval band, I was in an Army band. You know, so the same difference.
Hendrix too. I think he's
Hendrix probably too. Yeah,
Again.
yeah. So it's not uncommon. It's an important step. See, it's good practice, actually, because you may not be able to make it as easily if you don't go through it. If you just jump into the scene without that, and then deal with some ruffians and the people who will give you a hard time in the music field, it can be just as deadly as anywhere else in terms of personalities and ego trips, right? So that's a good cushion to have, right? Background, good education if you can do it. That guarantees, that doesn't make you a great player, but that guarantees you have some cushion for your career. And then you can take your time growing up through your development as a musician of one sort or one level or other. So you can take your time. You got the educational background as a background, support. Comments?
Certainly. Yeah, and I know you and I have talked about in the past about having certain models, right? Like people that you're following, or people whose footsteps you want to follow in. So if that's, you know, a certain group of players you want to play with, or, you know, you maybe stay on a certain trajectory because of it. Yeah.
My entrance into the Army Band came with this: love supreme. Love supreme. Love supreme. I was greeted with a love supreme by all the cats. And that's how they left your company. Love supreme. Hello? Love supreme. Love supreme. That was like the time of a love supreme. And regardless of your background, everybody was saying it. Love supreme. It was like I had gone to Coltrane school. It was the Army Band. And I'm saying, Train was for real, man. He got to this band and just messed everybody up here, right? And it was a beautiful thing. It was warm, but very brotherly. Love supreme, man. You know. So they weren't just into John the musician. They went to John the heart man. See, the friend of friends, right? The brother of brothers. See, John Coltrane. Because he gave so much to the musicians to work on for the rest of their lives. Not just a few tunes, right? Not just a little bit of diddly 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 did. No, beyond your mind, exactly. And the people who were with me during that time in the Army Band knew that, and they respected it. Right? He was a giant, right? To do his work was a giant step for the musicians. Shoot.